Hi, this is Brian Perez. I'm going to review for you Modern Romance by Aziz Ansari and Eric Klinenberg. First off, Aziz Ansari is a comedian and Eric Klinenberg is a social scientist. Before this, I didn't know who Aziz Ansari was, but he's a really funny guy. I do really recommend you read this book because it's hilarious. The dating and romance game has really been spiced up in this past 80 years or so. There was a time way back in the 60s where people got married very early in their ages. They didn't have the amount of choices that we have now today. They either married very locally and started their families very early on. The average age for marrying is increasing in both the females and males. There has been an increase in the labor market for females entering into the global economy, a women's equality movement. The dating market has become a technological wild, wild west. Things are changing so fast that there's no way to get a firm grasp of. The divorce rate has been rising as well. I wanted to highlight technology being used in this book because technology has changed the world. It's increased the speed of communication. And in technology, speed is king. Everybody has access to a phone, creating a 24/7 dating market. And in terms of being outdoors and talking to real people, the screen time is unprecedented. Computers and screen time are a buffer between real relationships. There are no more handwritten love letters being sent to each other. There is a messaging culture. And in this messaging dynamic, Aziz highlights this thing called reward uncertainty. And what that is in between gaps of communication, there's a silence, there's a mystery. And what can happen between people is there can be anxiety of why haven't they called me back? Is he talking to another girl? Who's that other girl? How many side girls do you have? Do you not care about me? Is it me? It can create a coked up effect, like a Pavlov's dog, and excitement of instant gratification of when you're going to get that next message. Like if you use Snapchat, it's like an action-packed messaging system. Also, prior to even going out on a date, what happens is people are Googling you, finding you on social media. It's become a search process of what I see. I want to see all the cards on display. And what cards are you hiding? There's the internet person, and then there's the real you. And what you see a lot of females doing is that it's a tactic that they use. It's called the high-angle selfie. It's the most common type of coy look that they display on their profiles. It's all over the place. And in the online dating scene, there's a schism. What happens is the hottest girls any girl will get tons of messages by guys, thirsty guys. I don't know how a female's brain can handle all that messages. She has to be picky or not even reply because there's just too many guys on the online searching for girls, whether it be love or sex. And another thing I learned from this book was really interesting. I didn't know about this, but there's an app called Grindr, and that's for gay guys. And that was out before Tinder. Tinder's too easy. You have to be able to approach a girl. It's unacceptable. Too shallow. Another book to complement Modern Romance is this book called Paradox of Choice. It's about choices, about how people are maximizers and satisficers. There's two different people. Someone who wants to max the top, the peak, the alpha, the top of the food chain, and then satisfiers will be just being content. And what you see more in the past relationships is a companionship. And now mostly people want a deep, passionate Disney romance. Now they're really looking for a soulmate, especially women. I don't know how many women Justin Bieber can marry. I don't know. And with too many choices, it becomes bogged down. You don't know what's what, you always search for the next best. With women, it's called hypergamy, trading up to try to get the best mate you can get. It's becoming a candy store, like Forrest Gump's life is like a box of chocolates. Back then, women wanted to escape their parents' home and gain freedom by getting married. Now they have a freedom, but it's like a pseudo-freedom. There's a window for women. It's no longer the simple life. A woman glows during her peak SMV, her sexual market value, around 21 years old. And with technology, it's become such a choice. They have so many choices, so much attention, so much validation, likes. With attention and all these likes and favoriting and compliments, it's creating I call it a turbo strawberry, where it's It's so amped, such a neurochemical concoction of dopamine. It causes a popcorn brain. And in terms of instant gratification, men have, especially young men, I think it's really affecting them, is the porn and the entertainment and the video games just becoming like a rush of instant turn on. It is affecting guys' brains. I would look at it as a dynamic of sex versus procreation. For the country of Kadar, with social media, it's made it easier for women to express themselves. Even if it's in a sneaky manner, they can do text messaging and use whatever messaging is available to go out and say date with like the Middle East, with Middle Eastern women being more repressed. They can somehow sneak in a Snapchat. And in terms of French and France, there's not as big deal in terms of infidelity. It's not such a big moral issue like you see in the United States. Say if a man has sex with another woman, it's like the most horrific thing in the world. And they compare it to other atrocities that are so huge. It puts men in a bad like limelight. And in France, it's not that big of a deal. It's like human nature. There's an evolutionary instinct that men have. I think it's okay for a man to have 3 wives, and I've been saying this for years, and people don't seem to understand that. They have this soulmate type of Disney fantasy. Maybe I'm just different. And my favorite country that they went over was Japan and its herbivores. I've always been interested in Japan. I was a big fan of Dragon Ball Z, Japanese cars. I drive a Subaru, samurai, robots, Robotech, sashimi, Book of 5 Rings, Zen, karate, aikido, Pachinko, honor, Murakami, penis festival, Kyoto, Elvis, geishas, whale hunting, sex robots, and herbivores. This is a huge crisis going on in Japan where men and women aren't having sex. He goes over tons of statistics of what's going on there. There's been economic downturn with the real estate, jobs, women working instead of wanting to start a family. There's a lack of contact with the opposite sex. And he writes about men having a hard time getting rejected. The herbivores are called something like sonshi danshi, which means grass eaters. So it's not like a meat-eating type of man, a carnivore that we'll later see in the Argentinian man. Like a lack of testosterone. In their countries, the population is decreasing. And what the herbivores are doing is they're rebelling against getting married. They are sinking into porn, their own hobbies. Japan is like one of the frontiers for like the sex industry. They have a world champion masturbator named Masanobu Sato. He masturbated for 9 hours and 33 minutes. And he promotes Tanga, so make sure you find out what Tanga is. Not Jenga, Tanga. Also, prostitution is big. I've never been to Japan, and I've never seen them as a big social type of culture. And that's something, I want to research more. I think it has to do with, the World War II repercussions, their culture of honor. Really interesting culture. I have to check them out. They even have a more extreme version of a herbivore. It's called hikikomori, and these young Japanese men, they don't even leave their room. They just stay indoors all day. This is like a clash because all this technology, men and women are supposed to be communicating with each other. And in Japan, it's really screwed up. It's sad to see. It's not natural. In the Western countries, they have them called the MGTOW movement. It's men going their own way. And it's very common in, say, England, Sweden, and Canada. Canada is probably the one I would really highlight. And these are men that just refuse to marry, even date, with Western culture being more anti-male. The feminist movement has been going on for about 70, 80 years. This is just adding fuel to the fire of the dating market. We have women waiting on later in their late 20s, past their prime, to try to get married. Then you have guys not wanting to get married at all. This is going to become an issue going forward. And the last country that they went to was Buenos Aires, Argentina. And they are more considered a meat-eater culture. I've been to this country, Buenos Aires, and they have one of the best meats. They have a ton of grass-fed meat. So, the herbivores called grass-fed. They're grass-feeding themselves. These people in general just eat meat like crazy. They're meat-eaters. They have the best steak I've ever had. One thing about the Latinos, especially, say, Buenos Aires, they have like a more macho culture, that how they look at each other in the eye when I was watching them dance the tango. They're more direct. They approach. They're more aggressive in terms of the cold approach. They got it down. And they have really influenced my life, the Latin cultures, because I've traveled to their country a few times. They do have, in terms of game, they have really solid in terms of the cold approach. And what they have is like a no means they're interested, and that you just keep on pursuing and persist. A no means no, but when in fact that no means is a prelude to an actual yes. And in the States, no means no still means no, but it's more of a, once they stop talking to you, that's when you know it's over, because it's like ignorance. You don't exist. You're the invisible man. And they use a social scientist. His name's Eric? It's hard for him to pick it up because I see him more as an intellectual, a research big data for social science, like a highly educated guy. I don't think he could pick up a lot of the culture out, especially Latin cultures. Is that they had, back in 2001 in Argentina, they had a corralito, and it was a bank run. So it was a big depression that hit them. And this social dynamic really hit them hard. This action that happened with the banks hit them really hard. I saw it happen. It's probably one of the most depressing places I've ever been to. I met a lot of good people and had a good time, but it's pretty sad. And one thing else I want to mention about these Latin cultures, they permit more flirtatious behavior. Sometimes you get a bad reaction. If you're out, yeah, I'm from the States, so you sometimes get a bad reaction. I don't take it personal because I've been all over the place, but you do get some bad reactions from girls. I could see if they don't like it, but there's no reason to be mean to me. And I know some guys that have never been out of the country or other countries, they take it as it hurts their feelings, and you got to be tough enough to see that you're just being turned down or they don't care, and that's fine. And I do think herbivores should eat more meat. Testosterone is important. I don't believe all that science stuff about vegan. I don't think being a vegan hipster is cool. Eat a little bit of meat. And in closing, I do recommend you read this book. It was really entertaining. It was funny. It can give you a grasp on the dating scene, how it's changed, and how confusing it can be. So it could range from anyone. Anyone can read this, young, old. If you're older, just let someone know about this book. It's funny. There's a ton of research done in this book. I would pick it up. I would read this at least once. The main takeaway from this is that there's so much choices now that with technology that it's become confusing. But you got to go out there and have fun. Go out dating. Guys should be approaching. Girls don't wait too long.